all the law allows at the moment is for a parent to, if they wish, to use a very mild smack on the bottom or a tap on the back of a hand or leg. There is no evidence that this very moderate and very limited defence has been misused to allow parents to get away with abusing their children. And the idea that it leads to escalation, that a parent who uses a very mild smack today will beat their child black and blue tomorrow, is just such an insult to millions of normal, decent parents who would never dream of doing any such thing. You might as well say that shouting at your child should be banned, because that too can sometimes escalate. It is really a ridiculous and offensive notion. We know that there are no popular calls for a ban. It may be an issue which obsesses certain activists and certain people, but the idea that the public are clamouring for us to criminalise parents who smack is far from the truth. And polling in Scotland and Wales ahead of the smacking bans there demonstrate how unwanted and unwelcome these new regimes are. 76% of Welsh adults said no to changing the law in 2017, and 74% of Scottish adults opposed a smacking ban. And I haven't seen much discussion of it in Northern Ireland. Now, journalists and campaigners and some of the noble ladies and lords have already said they're prone to claiming that this study says this, or that research says that, or that psychologist says this, and that it deserves to be criminalised. But if you actually look at the data, and you usually find either that the researchers are just sort of active campaigners dressed up as they're dressing up their views as science, or that the research did not make the claims that were attributed to it. And I'm not aware of any reliable studies showing actual causation between gentle physical chastisement of the kind we're talking about today and negative child outcomes. By removing the reasonable chastisement protection, tapping your child on the hand or the bottom would become a crime. Would become a crime. An assault, as some of the noble ladies call it. If this, if this happened, of course, then the police and others and everyone would have a duty to report and investigate every case that came to their attention. Every instance of a loving mum or dad using a little smack in a reasonable and normal manner, perhaps when the child was in imminent danger, would suddenly be liable for prosecution. That cannot be anything but detrimental to that family's trust in the authorities. Removing this safeguard would likely result in significant over-reporting social services. The twitching curtain brigade would love it. There are probably thousands and thousands of parents using reasonable chastisement every day, and the idea that they would all stop overnight because we tell them to, I'm afraid, is pretty naive. Even if only a fraction of those parents came to the attention of the authorities, it would place considerable pressure on the already overburdened social services and police. And this would dilute the resources available to help truly vulnerable children and their families. Some of them would eventually slip through the cracks and be overlooked. And I do believe, my lords, that this would be the legacy of passing this amendment. In all honesty, I fail to see how removing the reasonable chastisement helps families at all. It would increase the pressure on reasonable parents and dissolve their trust. It would increase the pressure on our vital services and those most at risk. Families are the backbone of our society, and they deserve all the support we can give them. The reasonable chastisement defence is, by definition, a reasonable law.